About 12 months ago, I decided to jump onto the bandwagon and get into adventure riding along with a hell of a lot of other people. This is everything that I learnt in those first 12 months. Now, what I'm going to talk about is not just rider techniques and things like that. I am absolutely no expert, so I'm not going to tell you how you should ride your bike. I'm going to tell you about what my experience was and what I learnt from it. All right, my number one learning this year was about damage is inevitable. You will drop your bike. There's no ifs or buts about it. So if you go out buying a brand new bike and you think, oh, it's going to stay nice and pretty, it will not. I'm so glad that I bought an older bike. I bought a secondhand bike because I've dropped it, damaged it, broken it so many times. And that is a part of it. That is a part of the adventure. Now, we never intend on doing these things, but it is what happens. The whole point of an adventure is you're doing something that is a little bit difficult. It's meant to be challenging. And because it's challenging, you're going to fail. And failing is okay, right? But that also means that you're going to drop it. So things like crash bars and bark busters and elbow pads and the right gear all make a big, big difference to that not ruining your day. It also means carrying tools. So one thing I learnt was to make sure that I've got all the tools that I need. And what I generally do is when I do any kind of maintenance on the bike, all the tools that I use to do that maintenance, I put them aside and go, okay, which ones should I carry with me? Little things like, can you take off the front and rear wheels? If you need to change a tube, do you A, have a tube? And then B, do you have the tools you need to take the wheel off, fit the new tube, put the wheel back on again? Those absolute basics. You don't need to carry, 2 tons worth of tools with you. You just need to have enough that you can do those absolute must-haves like changing a tire. And so therefore, bike prep is a major component of going out for a ride. So one of my big learnings was to do that prep beforehand, make sure the bike is in tip-top condition and you don't break chains and stuff like that.
Oh, chains come off. Have a look at that.
My number 2 learning was less is more. And what I'm talking about is packing. The less you pack, the more fun you're going to have. I found that I need to be brutal with my packing. I always end up sort of trying to pack infinite number of GoPros and batteries and all sorts of stuff. And as much as I do love taking my drone and stuff like that, I've got to be brutal about what I do pack. And same with the camping aspect. When you're camping, take the absolute minimum. And I found the less I have on the bike, the more I enjoy the riding. Number 2 with that packing is the Garmin. So make sure you have some sort of device that if you get into trouble that you can make a call. Now, I've never had to use this. I hope I never have to, but having it on me is an absolute must. Now, the secondary benefit to that is that obviously you can track your GPS and then you can share your ride with people like on motorrides.com.au, for example. But having that there for safety is an absolute must, and it gives you a hell of a lot of comfort in knowing that when you're outside of phone range, you've still got the ability to call if something goes wrong. Now, I am going to talk about techniques quickly. Now, again, I'll just express I'm not an expert by any means, so do your research. I did the Ride ADV intro ride. I really, really encourage anyone, if they're going to get into adventure riding, to do a course, get some expert knowledge. From that expert knowledge, my key takeaways were 3 techniques. Now, these 3 particular techniques really opened up the riding for me. It made me feel comfortable. It made me feel like I was in control. And it also made it more sustainable. It meant I didn't get tired all the time with these particular 3 techniques. Now, they are, number 1, being on the outside peg when you're turning. So as you're turning, say you're going through a left-hander, leaning on, whether you're standing up or sitting down, but leaning on that outside peg, so leaning on the right-hand peg. So if you're turning left, right-hand peg, putting that weight on it, you got the weight nice and vertical straight down. Theoretically, it's giving you more traction because you're putting that weight directly down onto the tire, but it felt like I had control. It felt like as I squeezed the power on the coming out of the corner, that I was in the right position. I could feel exactly where the bike was at. So outside peg when you're cornering. Number 2, eyes up. Eyes up. I remind myself of this constantly while I'm riding. Eyes up, eyes up. I keep looking down. So one of the key things was as you're looking down, when you're looking down right in front of you, then you can only react to what's right in front of you, which means it's often too late. You've got to keep your eyes looking forward so that you're making strategic decisions about where you're going to position the bike. Deciding what side of the track to be on is really key. The stuff that's happening right down in very front of you, it's too late to make any decisions around that, so just let the suspension deal with it. Suspension can deal with the tactical stuff, you deal with the strategic stuff. And the only way you're going to be able to make strategic decisions while you're riding is to have your eyes up looking straight ahead. So look at where you want to be. That's the number one thing. And I do have to constantly remind myself to do that because I keep forgetting. I keep going, just eyes up, eyes up, eyes up. So tell yourself that constantly as you're riding. The third one is then loose arms. Nice and loose, and leaning forward. So everyone, I found my bike when I got it, it's got risers on it because the guy I bought it from was taller than I was. But everyone seems to fit risers for some reason. I found that to be bad because you end up like this instead of like this. This is not expert advice. This is just what I feel. And I feel that when I'm leaning a little bit forward and I've got, I'm holding the handlebars like this rather than like this, 10 times more control. I feel like I'm in control. The bike feels natural. It feels like all the movements that are happening are natural. And so therefore, and I'm not being jerked and bumped around by all the bumps. You're just letting the bike move around. So nice, loose, getting jiggy with it. All right. Number 4, plan enough. Now, that's not to say that you need to plan to the infinite degree. And I don't also like to go completely shoot from the hips and not know where I'm going. I like enough of a plan where I know exactly where my waypoints are. I know where I'm going to. I know even a couple of different routes you can take. I always design one particular route, the main route, the primary route that we're going to take, but I also do just enough research to know that there's a few other options, right? Because the amount of rides that we've been on where we've been blocked, the road comes to an end, for example, and you need to make a call to go, okay, well, we can't follow this path, we've got to follow a different one. If you know what those options are, it's going to make the day so much more enjoyable. If you're making shit up as you go along, then it gets harder. It just means that you're struggling with your decisions and you're going, I don't know what to do. And you don't want to be doing that. You just want to be able to know, A, what's in primary route, what are your option routes, where are you going to get fuel, and where are you going to get food. Everything else is semantics. Everything else you can work out. Everything else can be loose. But if you've got those things covered, path, fuel, and food, you'll be sweet. If everyone knows where you're going to stop for fuel and where you're going to stop for food, everyone's happy. All right, number 5, and this is my number 1. This is the most important. I think above anything is all about mindset. It's about how you're going to approach your riding. So within that, number one thing within the mindset piece, and this, again, this is the primary difference between enjoying it and hating it. So bring on the attitude, right? Attack it. You're doing an adventure. If it's an adventure, expect the challenges, embrace the challenges, love the challenges, and lean into them because that is what we're doing it for. That's the whole point. Otherwise, we'd just be riding on the roads. And I must admit, ever since I started adventure riding, one of the downsides of doing adventure riding is I now find road riding boring. And maybe I'm riding too slow, I don't know, but I just don't get the same enjoyment out of it because there's not enough of a challenge. It's not interesting enough. There's not enough happening. So anyway, just have that attitude, have that approach that the challenges are what it's about and that you're embracing overcoming those challenges. That's what's adventure. Within that, momentum and confidence are a chicken and egg situation, right? You need the momentum to get the confidence. You need the confidence to get the momentum. Your confidence needs to be just a little bit ahead of what your current ability is. Now, you don't want your confidence to be too far ahead, otherwise you end up stacking and making all sorts of mistakes, and that's when bad things happen. But you also need your confidence to not be behind your ability. You want it to be just in front so that your ability is always chasing the level of confidence that you have, right? That will give you momentum. That'll drive the bike forward. When the bike is driving forward, then it's so much easier, right? So if you're in second gear moving along at a reasonable pace, it is so much easier than being in first gear wobbling around like crazy because you're doing 0.1 kilometers an hour, right? It's so much easier with that momentum, but you just got to have the confidence to do it. Another thing is my bike is very, very tall, and initially I was intimidated by that height, and I had to get over that. And once I got over that, I found it 10 times more enjoyable, right? You need the height to have the ground clearance to get that suspension travel, right? So the height, rather than looking at the height as a bad thing, you've got to look at the height as a good thing. So then therefore you've got to get used to the bike being tall. When I'm sitting on my bike, I can just touch the ground with my tippy toes. So it is very, very tall. Now, there are times where that then can be difficult, and there's plenty of times where I've dropped it because of that. Having said that, the rest of the time, the bike is far more enjoyable because it's tall. So I had to get over that and enjoy and embrace the height of the bike and not be intimidated by it. Last but not least, have fun, right? As soon as you're not having fun, stop, take a breath, take a break, have a bottle of water, grab a muesli bar out of your backpack, and then get back into it, right? Got to be having fun. You just got to make sure you're in the right mindset to have fun. All right, that's it. I hope you got something out of it. If you're planning on getting into adventure riding or just starting getting into adventure riding, I can tell you 100% yes, it is difficult at the start, but oh my God, it is so rewarding. It's the most rewarding thing I've probably ever done. You've just got to approach it in a way to get the most out of it. Anyway, stay safe, have fun, and I'll see you next time.